My name is Tean. I studied Anthropology and Classical Civilisation and Literature with a year abroad at Birmingham, and I graduated in 2021. And I'm currently working as a podcast producer and a freelance runner and junior researcher. So I first got introduced to, I believe it was the first society that I did was, yeah, Burn FM. I think I did some, like, I dabbled in other things in my first semester at university, but I wasn't really paying attention then. Everything was just like, oh, everything's so overwhelming. But I remember Burn FM, one of my friends, she started because she's very, very involved in the music world, and she's doing music stuff now as well. But she was really, really interested in music and started her own radio show. And I was like, oh, that sounds really, really cool. And I went with her one day to go see the studio, and it was just amazing. I was like, I can't believe this is at a university where there were these mixing decks and these really professional looking headphones and microphones and all this like foam around the walls because it was a recording studio. And I thought it was so cool. And I was like, I definitely want to do my own one because I do like music, but it's not my number one passion. My number one passion is like storytelling and talking. So I was like, I know what I want to do, a radio show. And I talked to a couple of my friends, and because I didn't want to just do it just by myself, because it wasn't going to be it wasn't going to be completely focused on music. I wanted to do it about pop culture, about university life, things like that. So I had two friends who were happy to join me. And yeah, we started, it was called Our Brand of Sass. It was the worst name ever. But it was just so fun. I think it encapsulates how we were at that time, because we were just feeling, we were just like, oh, we're so cool, and we're just sassy apparently. But yeah, it was just a really fun time basically with two friends. And then from then, I actually got a load of really good feedback from people hearing it. And then that kind of encouraged me to upload it online to Mixcloud. So it's a version of SoundCloud, but it's for radio shows. And so that's when I started to learn to edit, because I was like, well, I'm going to take the recordings that we have from our live radio sessions and I'm going to put them online. But I was like, but I want to edit them a bit, because sometimes we would just it works when you're listening live, but it doesn't work when you're not listening live, where people are just chatting loads and loads and loads, and getting rid of all of like the big peaks in the sound and everything. So I just learned to edit, and that was honestly just from online. I was watching YouTube videos, and I just started out with Audacity, which is a free audio editing software. And then from then I just learned how to edit pretty much, and I was just like fiddling around with it. And that's when I got really interested in audio production. And then from then, when I went on my year abroad, so I went from Birmingham to UBC in Canada, and there they didn't really have a radio station, but they said you could do a podcast. And I was like, oh, I might like to do a podcast, because going back to anthropology, I had to do a research project for my dissertation, and I knew that I wanted to do it about people who have come to Canada. So settlers, so people who aren't the indigenous population. I was doing it about people who have come there. And because I was an international student, I actually had like a very good connection to all of these people who were from all over the world. So I had a friend from Uganda, I had a friend from Vietnam, from Brazil, because we were all lumped into a group of international students. And so from there I started doing these interviews of people, asking about like what it's like for them to be in Canada and how they feel as like an outsider coming into a new place. And yeah, it inspired my dissertation in the end, these conversations, because I ended up talking about how the perception that these new settlers, so which were students coming into this place in Canada, how it affects like the indigenous population, how it affects the settler Canadians, so the people whose families came 200 years ago, like the European settlers, like how it affects them with all these new people coming in, and the connections between all these people and the earth and the land. And yeah, so all of those interviews actually inspired my dissertation, which I loved writing about.